Right, so here we are again, IKEA meatballs attempt number 2. You may have seen about a month ago where we tested out the so-called leaked IKEA recipe, and we're going to do it again today, but we're going to tweak some things using your suggestions. Now, apologies if you can hear some background noise of like a fan whirring, but I've had to open the back door because currently the UK's having a heat wave and everything's on fire. So yeah, kind of a lot of learnings from the last video. The end result was a really good meatball, but they just weren't what I remember having at IKEA. Now, what we're going to do here is going to be something slightly different, and I expect they're not going to be on the money with IKEA meatballs, but hopefully we're going to get a bit closer. Now, we can only take this experiment so far until I can actually get to tasting an IKEA meatball, because I haven't been for such a long time, so I've kind of lost the memory of how they taste. I've got a good idea, and my nearest IKEA is like a million miles away, and I don't drive, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So just as before, if you get your face down here, we'll start off and we'll make the meatballs. The chatboula. Right, okay, meatballs then. So we've got the same mixture as before, 500 grams of beef mince and 250 grams of pork. I'm going to keep that the same for now. But one of the most common suggestions in your comments was actually soak in the breadcrumbs, and I agree. Again, I'm using panko breadcrumbs. Honestly guys, just use ordinary breadcrumbs, but this is what I've got, so that's what I'm using. And now, as far as milk, I don't really know how much I need. I'm gonna start off with, say, let's go 300 ml. Now I'm also thinking as well, once we soak the breadcrumbs, they're gonna swell up to about twice their size, so I don't think we're gonna need as many in the final mix, but we'll see. So let's go in with that 300 ml. Now I think I'm aiming for like a porridge consistency. You know, I don't want it like swimming and sloppy, but I do want all those breadcrumbs to go nice and soft. So that was 300 ml, that's not quite enough. So let's go in with another 100. Might actually be too much, because they are kind of soaking that up, but we'll see how we get on. I'm gonna leave those for about 20-30 minutes to do their thing, so all that milk gets absorbed into the breadcrumbs, and then we'll see where we're at. Right, okay, so what we're gonna do now is, whilst those breadcrumbs are doing their thing, we're gonna cut this onion up. Now, differences with this is, before I kind of diced it up nice and small and we just chucked it in. But what I'm gonna do with this one is grate it, just see if that makes a difference. You know, this is in the name of science, but I'm not gonna use all of this onion because that is one thick boy onion. So what I'm gonna do is cut this in half, okay, and just use half of it. And of course, peel it. And then using a simple box grater, we're just gonna grate this puppy up.
This is how we do this. In one way, I'm yours.
Right, okay, let's assemble this meatball mixture. Like I said before, same quantity of beef, pork as the IKEA recipe, but I'm going to season this slightly differently. So what I'm going to do is add some salt and pepper just as before, be really generous with it. Same with some pepper, I'm using white, the same as last time for consistency. Now, what I've got here is nutmeg and allspice. Now, there seemed to be a theme in the comments that allspice is used in making Swedish meatballs. However, a really interesting comment came along from some guy on there who said that he previously dated one of the vice presidents of IKEA. Now that is really interesting. And he said that he kind of dug around his knowledge and sort of spoke to him and stuff. And apparently, don't know how true this is, apparently they didn't put anything in there. No onion, no garlic, no allspice, it was just water. I don't know how true that is. Maybe we'll try that method, but for now, I'm gonna go with a common theme and add some allspice and a touch of nutmeg as well. But listen, this is all kind of new ground. We're doing a bit of trial and error, so we'll see how it goes. I have no idea how much allspice to use. Smells quite strong, so I don't think I'm going to put too much in there. About half a teaspoon. I think that will be plenty. The next thing I'm going to use is some nutmeg, and again, I'm not going to go in with too much of this. Probably about a quarter of a teaspoon's worth. And use the fresh stuff because it's just better. And this stuff lasts for ages. Whole nutmegs are practically indestructible as a spice. Then I'm going to add everything else. So I'm going to add the garlic, and I'm also going to add our minced onion as well. Let's get that in. And I'm just going to give this a preliminary sort of mix up just to get everything combined, and then we'll add the soaked breadcrumbs. Right then, so we've given the meat a preliminary mix up. It's not completely combined yet, because what I'm going to do now is start adding these breadcrumbs. Now, you can see they've gone to a kind of porridge consistency, and I think that's kind of what we're aiming for. I think the problem was, by adding the breadcrumbs dry, what that's doing is taking away moisture. It's taking away the fat and everything else in there, and it's going into the breadcrumbs, which, whilst it might keep it slightly juicy, I don't think it's going to give it the full effect. So what I'm going to do is just start adding some of this. I'm going to add half, so that would be 50 grams of breadcrumbs equivalent. Now what I'm going to do with this is mix it more than what I did last time. Now I did think about putting it in a food processor, but as someone pointed out, that could overwork the mixture and make them sort of tough and bouncy. So what I'm going to do is mix this by hand and hopefully create a smoother texture than what we did before. Now I've kind of mixed that up. I think it can take a few more breadcrumbs, so I'm going to go in with perhaps another quarter. Oh, see, I don't know if that's too much. Oh no, have I ruined this? Have I ruined it? Oh, one thing we haven't added is the egg. Plop that in. Right, so I'm going to continue mixing this, and then we'll form them into meatballs and set them in the freezer.
346 minutes later.
Right, okay, so we've got the meatball mixture here. I'm a bit worried about this. I think I've added too much of those breadcrumbs. It's very, very loose and sloppy. I've got a bowl of water here, so I can dip my hands in it and kind of form them into meatballs. It just makes it a bit easier. So let's form my first meatball. Yeah, this is this is very, very, very soft. Okay, so there's one meatball. Is it going to collapse into a disc? Oh, I could add some breadcrumbs to this, couldn't I? Just to kind of soak up some of that moisture. What do we do? I think I'm going to have to. Hold on. Right, so I've got some more breadcrumbs here. I'm going to add some more in, just to kind of firm it up a touch more. So lesson learned from that stage is that actually we only need probably half of the breadcrumbs soaked in milk. So I'm going to mix this through, get it to a bit more of a workable consistency, and I'll be right back. Okay, so my meatball mixture is a bit firmer now, so we'll try again, shall we? And just like the IKEA ones, I don't want them like really big. I just want tiny, you know, average balls. Something like that. So I'm going to nestle that on the plate. I'm going to crack on, do the rest of these, because you don't want to see me do that. And then I'll pop them in the freezer just to firm up, and then we can get started, guys. Then we can get started. Finally. Right then, the meatballs. They have firmed up a touch, but they are still very, very soft, so we'll see how this goes. So what I'm going to do is get some oil in this pan and we'll fry these puppies up. I've got the oven sort of preheating on about gas mark 5 as well, because we're going to put them in the oven to finish off. Okay, so pan onto the heat. Just a touch of oil. Okay, once that oil has got fairly hot, we're going to get the meatballs in. Now obviously the goal is to brown these as much as possible on all sides. It's hotter than Satan's bum crack at the minute. I don't know if I've ruined these guys. Honestly, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm quite anxious and nervous now. Like, should I just trash the whole video? I don't know. I don't know. It's just like, there was so much meat mixture left. Like loads of it, more than what there was before. Now I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but we'll soon find out. But there I was, just trying to ham fist raw meat mixture into freezer bags because there was just so much of it. I was trying to zip it shut, you know, kind of holding it with one hand to keep it clean. I used my mouth to shut it with, getting a bit of meat in my mouth. Raw meat, might die now. Kitchen's a mess, everything's a mess. I'm hot, bothered, cranky, because it's not going to plan. Yeah. Well, if they're shit, it's still IKEA's fault. Right, so I've got my ingredients for the sauce here. Now, there's a few changes that I've made. First, let's talk about the soy sauce. Now, in the IKEA recipe, it doesn't really specify which soy sauce to use. It just says soy sauce. Well, there are two main ones. There's light and there's dark. The difference between the two is that light soy sauce is salty, whereas the dark soy sauce has been fermented longer, so it's got a deep, rich caramel sort of flavour, and it's got a lot more colour. So what I'm going to do is just stick with the light, just to keep that nice salty vibe, but if we need to change the colour, I can add some of this dark. I've also got different stock this time. Instead of just a normal plain beef stock, I've used a Knorr Jelly Pot rich beef stock. It's a lot more darker in colour, and it's got a deeper flavour as well. So we'll see how we get on with that. So let's crack on with it and make the sauce. Right, so same as before then, just gonna get the pan onto a medium-ish heat. And you'll notice we've got some nice sort of fond bits at the bottom of that pan from sort of browning off those meatballs. And that's just gonna add to the flavour. Because in the last video, they told us to wipe out the pan and discard that. I don't think that was the right thing to do. So in with the butter. We're just gonna let that sizzle away and melt down. Once it's melted, we can go in with the flour. And again, just like before, we're making a very simple roux. Stir that through, and I'm going to cook this roux out for a couple of minutes just to take the rawness out of that flour before we add the other stuff. Right, okay, next thing is to add the stock. Now that that flour has cooked out a bit, in we go. Also go in with our mustard and also the soy sauce. And already that's much darker than last time, and I think once I add the cream, I don't think we'll need some of that dark soy. What I'm going to do is just leave this for a minute or so, bring it up to a simmer, and then we'll add the cream, taste it for seasoning, add any salt, any pepper if we need it, and then we're about ready to assemble. I'll finish my mash, get my peas on, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I'll see you in a minute and we'll add the cream.
5 minutes later.
Okay, so that's been sitting on the hob for a few minutes now, and you can see how really thick that's gone. So I think it's now time to add the double cream. In it goes. Now, I actually think that's a bit too thick still, because we had this problem last time. So I'm just going to add a touch of water just to let it down a little bit, because, I don't know, it just seems a bit too thick for me. So all I'm going to do now is just kind of mix that through, bring it back to a sort of gentle simmer, and I'm going to keep it on the back hob, nice and warm, just with the lid on, whilst I finish off the spuds and everything else. But what I will do first is just taste that for seasoning. Give it a quick taste. Definitely needs salt, 100%. And I think what I am going to do as well is add some pepper, just a bit of pepper. Jesus f***ing Christ, it's hot, man. It was a really good idea, wasn't it, Adam, for you to cook meatballs on a swelteringly hot day. Well, in fact, the hottest day of the year, so I believe. But nevertheless, we will push on. So let's plate this up. Got my mash here. I'll put a link up to my mash video. I've got a video where you can create mash 3 different ways. Next, I've got some peas, just simply cooked, nothing fancy. And did you know they're not a vegetable? They're actually a legume. Same family as lentils. There you go. See, you not only do I act like an idiot and show you how to cook, you learn things on this channel. Useless pub knowledge. Okay, I need my little thingy, don't I? Hot plate thing to put hot dishes on. Right, let's get that. I'm so unorganised today. Get it on there. Right, let's pop these on the plate. They have stuck a little bit. Right, next thing, the sauce. It smells very beefy. Now, I don't know if that's a good thing. Well, we'll see. So I'm just going to ladle some of that over the meatballs. And of course, cranberry sauce. Oh, that rhymed. Of course, cranberry sauce. And yes, I can already see the comments. Although you didn't say it last time, no one pointed it out. But I know I'm using cranberry sauce. And I know some of you might be going, again,
where's the lingonberries? You've had time to get them.
They're not easy to get hold of. So cranberry sauce will have to do in a pinch. So there's the finished article. You can see that the gravy is much darker than last time. And the only thing left to do now is take the thumbnail and we can get this in my face and see what it's like. Right, okay. Let's give this a taste. See where we're at. I'm gonna try the sauce first. See what that's like. Bit of mashed potato. It's a lot meatier, very creamy. I probably added a bit too much salt. I think using that extra sort of rich beef stock really helps improve it, and also the fond on the bottom of that pan as well, where we fried off the meatballs. But the most important part is the meatballs themselves. So I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous, but let's see. Let's get this nice big fat one here. Meatballs then. Let's go in. That flavour is... Wait, I need some more. That texture is way, way better. Very sort of smooth, creamy, not overworked, they're not bouncy, they're not firm. They've got a very smooth texture. There's a bit of kick there from that allspice and that nutmeg. Got a slight bit of warmth. And again, someone left in the comments that they don't actually put that in and they actually use just water. So for me to make a comparison, I'm really going to have to get hold of some IKEA meatballs or go to IKEA itself. But actually, considering I was worried that these were messed up and they weren't going to work, it turned out really good. I think what's going to end up happening here is we're going to deviate from an IKEA meatball to just a really good Swedish meatball, aren't we? I don't think I'm ever going to nail the IKEA recipe, but I would like to sort of go on this journey and sort of aim for it, just to say that I can. The shape does need some work because the mixture is softer, it's more loose, it's harder to work with, so we somehow need to come up with a way to make the shape better. And also the colour is not uniform because of that, because you can't brown all sides, because obviously because of the shape. So we really need to look at that. But all in all, we have made significant progress. The sauce is better, the meatball texture is better, the flavour's better, just all round a really good meatball. So with that being said, let's discuss. God, it's been like 31 degrees today, which is, you know, that's hot for me. But what did you think of the recipe? Leave a comment down below, let me know what you think. What kind of adjustments would you make? Anything to do with the sauce, the meatballs? Don't worry about the peas and mash, no one cares about that. But we've definitely still got work to do, so let me know what you think. So that wraps up today's video. Thanks again for watching. If you're new here, if you just found this video, please hit that subscribe button. And when you do, make sure you press that bell icon and allow all notifications. That way, when I upload a new video, you get notified. It's magic like that, isn't it? And also, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to share it far and wide. And I'll see your gorgeous faces in the next video, and bye for now. Oh, let's polish these off. It's my tea after all.